Hello everybody, this is Jason from STEM Nerds. In today's video, we are going to be talking about another fecal coliform. We discussed E. coli in the last video. I'll put that video in the upper right-hand corner. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Shigella. Very interesting organism. It is a fecal coliform, a microbe that causes intestinal disease that can lead to diarrhea and vomiting, dehydration. And so Shigella is a gram-negative rod, just like we saw with E. coli. It is a facultative anaerobe, as you would expect with a lot of the microbes that live in the gut. And this is a highly infectious organism that can cause dysentery, and dysentery is a type of bloody diarrhea. Now, there's a few different species of Shigella that we are going to be concerned with when it comes to the microbes that cause a lot of the pathology. The main one being Shigella dysenteriae. That is the one that is really most severe, and it has a Shiga toxin that is going to cause all kinds of problems in the human body. S. flexneri is another one, pretty common in developing countries. There's a couple other ones as well, as Boydii, as Sanii. So what does the epidemiology look like? Who gets it? Where do you find it? Well, the interesting thing with Shigella is it is mostly found in humans, or almost exclusively found in humans, and so there really isn't a big animal reservoir like we saw with E. coli, which means if we can control it in humans, we have a lot better chance of controlling it worldwide, generally speaking. Transmission, just like E. coli, it is fecal oral. It is, again, a fecal coliform, so we're going to find it associated with contaminated food, contaminated water, and just like with E. coli, we have to be really careful with our vegetables, with our fruits, making sure we wash them properly, making sure we cook our food properly. What's interesting about Shigella, unlike E. coli, there can be a very low infecting dose. As few as less than 100 bacterial cells can cause an infection. It is a major problem worldwide, especially in developing countries where it is a major cause of diarrhea. And it can lead, like I said, if it's not treated properly, it can eventually lead to death. There are outbreaks in areas where there are poor sanitation, poor hygiene, not a lot of infrastructure for raw sewage and human waste. The pathology is a little bit different when we compare it to E. coli earlier. Shigella actually utilizes the immune system in order to reproduce and spread. And so one of the things that it does is Shigella gains entry into the intestines, and it uses M cells. And these M cells are usually designed to allow pathogens in, yes, but really for the purpose of having them be destroyed. Unfortunately, with the Shigella, they gain entry into macrophages, and they can actually live inside of them, reproduce inside of them. And then once they're inside the cells, they can gain entry into the epithelial tissue. Not only that, but you're going to get a lot of immune system cells to the area, and so that can be a problem. And it's also one of the reasons why we start to see some of the diarrhea that we see in the form in which we see it. And so there's going to be a pretty substantial inflammatory response that is going to result in a lot of the intestinal mucosa just kind of sloughing off within the diarrhea. And so again, that bloody diarrhea is certainly a possibility. Fever is a possibility as well. And when somebody is trying to go to the bathroom, there can be some painful straining there. Now, the S. dysenteriae, that's the one that produces the Shiga toxin, and that is going to make things much more potentially life-threatening, especially as that Shiga toxin starts interfering with our own cells. And just like E. coli, Shigella can lead to hemolytic uremic syndrome, HUS. So what does it look like after it gets into the body? Well, usually it takes a few days for it to incubate before someone really starts feeling the symptoms and showing the signs, and those symptoms can be a fever, abdominal cramps, watery or potentially bloody diarrhea, mucus in the stool. Usually it's going to be around for about a week, and it is self-limiting. A lot of times the body will actually fight it. The immune system will successfully fight it. But there can be complications, and a lot of this is due to severe dehydration and possibly a very active immune response. And so things like seizures, again, the dehydration, the hemolytic uremic syndrome is another one that can be a potential issue as well. In terms of diagnosis, it's the same thing as what we saw with E. coli. And so you can do stool cultures, PCR, look for fecal leukocytes in the stool. When it comes to prevention, personal hygiene is everything, just like we talked about with E. coli. Make sure you're washing your hands. Make sure that you're washing your vegetables and your fruits. Make sure you're cooking your food thoroughly. If you are going to be in an underdeveloped area, do not drink the water, bottled water only for cooking, for drinking. If you have to use water, make sure you boil it. or treat it. And one of the big things just overall for reducing the amount of Shigella, especially in underdeveloped countries, is implementing proper sanitation, being able to keep sewage, wastewater away from the drinking water and the water for cooking. There is no vaccine for Shigella, so the treatment options are really going to be keeping people rehydrated thoroughly. That may mean the need for IV. Antibiotics, unlike with E. coli, there is a use case for antibiotics for severe disease, especially with S. dysenteriae. Ciprofloxacin is definitely an option there, azithromycin. And as always, if you think you have Shigella or any kind of fecal coliform, you should definitely consult a healthcare professional. And keep in mind, there is some evidence of antibiotic resistance with Shigella. And so again, this is a brief overview of Shigella, another one of the fecal coliforms that we have been looking closer at since we've been studying microbiology, especially how it impacts ecology. As always, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next week.